Hello, welcome to day 61. Hello, buddies, of the DeStress series at Quantum's Liberty. Here's your water. Today I have Annie with us. Hi, sweetheart, on the phone. And Annie is 10 years old. She has a mom who is a frontline worker in Washington, D.C. So Annie's mom was hired to work at some parties. And these parties are, apparently they're very important for the State Department. So we tap to have discussions with many of their other team members. And so Annie's mom went to work to help serve at a Christmas party, or a few Christmas parties that were given by the State Department. So apparently there was a list of over 900 people who were invited to the parties. And it was Mike Pompeo, who is our Secretary of State in Washington, D.C., and his wife, Susan, who were throwing 3 parties, and then also the president was having some parties too. So about a week before all these invitations went out, there was a notice that was sent out to Annie's mom and other people that any non-mission critical events must be changed to virtual events as opposed to in-person gatherings. And this occurred because there was a number of increases in the coronavirus cases in Washington, D.C. and in the United States, where we had over 270,000 people who passed away from COVID-19. So the State Department was asked about it, and in particular, Dr. Ian Lipkin, the director of the Center for Infection and Immunity at Columbia University, said that he was flabbergasted that an indoor event of this kind is dangerous on so many levels. And so he said that because the number of people for the first event was greater than 900 guests, and although it was taking place on the whole 8th floor, it was still a lot of people, and they were going to have food and drinks like alcohol. So Mr. Lipkin said that it was not a good idea to have alcohol because then people want to gather really close together. And he also said that it wasn't such a good idea to have music either, because then people have to speak really loud to talk over the music. And also then that makes the amount of the virus that can move through the air, the transmissibility is greater with music and loud talking from people. And then also Mr. Lipkin, Dr. Lipkin also felt that the presence of food and drinks wasn't such a good idea, because that meant that they would have to take their mask off to eat the food. And then also the other parties, there's some other parties too where the diplomats like to hang out afterwards and socialize, which is important to do. So the lucky thing is that the parties actually ended up, 2 of them ended up being, keep on tapping, Annie. So 2 of the parties ended up being a lot less numbers of people, which was great for your mom. And so that was good, so that not too many people were around, and they could also socially distance. Of course, they couldn't keep their mask on during the meals. So luckily, Annie, I'm so glad that your mom is okay, that she tested negative. And that's a really good thing, because that was that was an interesting thing to do, right? To send out a list of things that you had to do during the pandemic, like change any parties to virtual, online things, just like you're doing. And so that was just an interesting thing to do. So I thought we would tap on for Annie that it was just a little bit confusing, right? And just know that inside of you and inside of your mom and your dad, and all your sisters and brothers, you have inside of you, you have 50% of both confusion, right? And also clarity. So you have chaos inside of you, but you also have clarity. So the thing that you can do with the tapping helps to keep the oxygen in the brain, so that way you can think about the next best thing to do. And what you did was absolutely right. You talked about it with your mom and with your dad and with the people who love you. And it was decided that your mom felt that her people that she worked with were going to take care of any needs that she had, so that she would not be at great risk. So I'm so glad that everything worked out for your mom and your dad and everybody. And just remember to keep on listening to what the public health officials say. So one of the things that happened in that whole gathering was that a public health official did come forward and say that these parties really don't comply with the regulations that the letter sent out a week earlier had said to do, right? And so the last party was actually canceled. And then we also found out that Mike Pompeo was exposed to coronavirus by somebody who had a positive test. So he's on quarantine now, and your mom and your dad and your family are safe and healthy. And luckily they are following the guidelines. So let's tap on having radiant, beautiful health. And I'm so happy that you shared this with us. And we can use this as a wonderful tool to help teach about what the public health guidelines that are accurate and good for us to follow. You can pass that around to your friends and to people that you see who might not really know. Maybe they just don't know. So we can always assume that maybe someone doesn't know and they need to be taught. And so let's tap on just the little bit of confusion that happened, right? So you can just kind of release that stress, and then you can also know that the tapping is going to boost your immune system. So if you have an overactive immune system, you don't want to tap because you don't want more immunoglobulins if you have too many to begin with. But if you don't have too many to begin with, you can actually tap. You can raise your immunoglobulin levels, and you can lower the levels that make your stress go up in your body, and that's called cortisol. That goes down in 1 week of the tapping. So here we go, Annie. You ready to repeat after me? So good to see you, my dear. So here we go. Even though I have this confusion inside of me about what to do during coronavirus, I deeply and completely love myself. And I accept myself with this confusion inside. Even though I have confusion inside of me, because one person says one thing and another person says another, I noticed that the public health officials were the ones that everybody listened to, the ones who understand the science, And I accept myself with this confusion inside me, exactly as I am. Even though I have this confusion inside of me, what do I do next? Do I wear a mask or not? I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And I trust myself. And I have my own back. And I talk to people I love. And I accept myself exactly as I am. Inside the eyebrow, Annie. This confusion outside the eye. One person says one thing under the eye, and another one said another. Under the nose. What do I do? Chin. I listen to science. Collarbone. My auntie is a scientist. Under the arm. And she reads the articles. Top of the head. So that my family and I understand. Inside the eye. Exactly what we have to do. Outside the eye. Even though sometimes it's hard. Under the eye. And I want to have parties like Mike Pompeo. Under the nose. And have lots of friends and family there. Chin. And have music and dancing. Collarbone. I know my auntie's a scientist. Under the arm. And she says we can't do those things. Top of the head. Until everyone has a vaccine. Inside the eye. Or until the whole pandemic goes away. Outside the eye. But Mike Pompeo had a party. Under the eye. He had lots of parties. Under the nose. And so did President Trump. Chin point. But Auntie says, under the arm, they defied the health officials. Top of the head. Because these instructions inside the eye to have your mask on outside the eye and to socially distance under the eye and to wash your hands with soap under the nose are what Auntie says. Chin point will help protect us to stay healthy. Collarbone point. I am that girl in radiant health. Under the arm. I run and skip and play in radiant health. Top of the head. I am in radiant health. In every aspect of my being. I love me.